Hello, and thanks so much for joining us. I'm Carol Jenkins. The program is Black America, and my guest today is a #1 New York Times best-selling author, many times over, recipient of the Coretta Scott King Award and the Newbery Honor, sold over 1 million copies. And if you have read any of her work, including her latest novel, Skin and Bones, then you know why we are so happy to have her here today. Thank you so much, Renée Watson, for joining us again.
Thanks for having me. It's so good to be with you today.
Listen, the last time we said, when the new book comes out, let's do this again.
And it's here.
It's here, and you are on the road with your first adult novel.
Yes.
And I want to say it's really a work of poetry. I know novel is the description of it, but the way you've put it together is as a series of poems is the way, that I read it, and it's just beautiful.
Thank you.
So the difference between the young adult books and now this adult novel, what's the experience like?
I think I really wanted to be in conversation with the teachers and parents and aunties and uncles who are raising the young people that I've been writing for. So it wasn't a difference as far as what I'm writing about. Same themes, love of self, love of community, how do you love complicated people and places. Those same themes are emerging in Skin and Bones, but it's a conversation for the adults to be having about what have we inherited and what are we giving to our young people and to the next generation? And what are some things we need to let go of? And so I just really wanted to be in conversation peer to peer kind of and talk about legacy in a way that I can't talk about with teenagers. But it was fun, it was challenging, it was vulnerable. I think the biggest difference with writing for adults is I could play around a little bit. So you mentioned it reads like poetry. I moved the margins in so that you could feel Lena squeezed into this space and also centering a Black woman's story quite literally on the page.
Right.
Some chapters are one sentence, some chapters are definitions. I just wanted to experiment as a writer with this book, more so than the more traditional storytelling that I do in my younger books.
Yeah, so it gives the book a rhythm that actually fits real life. Some stories are only worth a quarter of a page. And you do it so beautifully, and then next.
Yeah, well, and I think that we think like that, or I think like that, meaning I don't necessarily think in long sentences or long memories. You have these snapshots, these kind of vignettes of your life that are coming together. You're having a conversation in the back of your mind, thinking of the grocery list, the to-do list, what you're afraid of, what you're self-conscious of. All of that is happening in the same moment. So in Lena's mind, the character in Skin and Bones, I wanted you to feel her mind,
right,
and kind of make her, the inside of her be on the page.
Right.
So we get these snapshots of how she's thinking. You say a word, and then you might get the definition of that word in the following chapter because she's pondering and thinking deeply about what she's hearing and experiencing.
Very, very effective way
you.
of, carrying her story through. It begins with her on a doctor's table being examined, and there we begin to see how she is dealing, I guess, in fact, that is called The Weight I Carry. Talk to us about that as the theme of one of the issues that she's dealing with in this book.
So Lena's a plus-size, dark-skinned Black woman living in Portland, Oregon, and in this scene, she knows why she's come to the doctor. And they are doing every other test they can except the one that she needs. She has a bladder infection and she knows what that feels like. And they won't give her that test quite yet because just by looking at her body, they haven't taken any tests. They're already saying, well, it might be diabetes, it could be high blood pressure, it could be something else because of how she looks, even though they're doctors. So she's frustrated. And I just wanted to start the book that way so the reader could see how it is to live in her body and in her skin, a space that should be safe for her, that should be listening to her is not. And that's kind of a theme throughout the book of her having to make space for herself because there are no spaces really made for her. So she's figuring out how to advocate for herself, when to speak up, when to maybe hold it in and just share it with her friends. She has these two best friends, her mom, she has a community of women who are helping her kind of carry the load, that heavy load that is her life. And in that scene, you just meet her in a very vulnerable state. And I wanted the reader to immediately see what a routine thing, just going to a simple doctor's appointment, and how that can upend her whole day. So yeah, I thought that would be a way to get to meet her and see the inner struggle, but also the very visible struggle that she's going through.
Right. Well, it reminded me of a friend who was telling me the story recently of of her mother, I think, going to the doctor, and the first thing that they tested her for was HIV because she's Black. Not what she had gone there
Yeah.
for. And so it's that, and we've talked with Dr. Uche Blackstock, who, I mean, even though this scene is not the full breadth of the story that you're telling, but it's taking place in a doctor's office where you've gone for help and suddenly you're cast as a certain...
Right. The stereotypes, the assumptions that are made about a person's body. And also, Lena's thinking about all the things she carries with her that are not seen, right? So she's very much, as a librarian and a scholar, she's very much focused on legacy and what she carries with her, not just the weight she carries, but her ancestors and their strength. And in this moment when the doctor's just asking for like medical history, she's also contemplating all the histories that she carries and brings with her. And so, she's trying to think about, I know I show up in this way and you can have assumptions about me based on how I look, but I want you to know who I am. And she's trying to teach her daughter too how to hold on to yourself in a world that's trying to erase you and push up against those beauty standards that are taught so often and so young to our girls. And so yes, that's a lot of the themes in the book are about advocacy for self and legacy and speaking up and speaking out.
Let's talk a little bit about the legacy, because Lena is doing research on Portland, Oregon, and it was news to me. I had no idea that it was the Mississippi of the
West,
of the Northwest, so to speak, and that thousands of KKK members moved there in order to create a white America for themselves.
Yes. So that is the backdrop of Oregon, and I think that history is not as known. It's certainly not taught in schools. I am from Portland, Oregon. I grew up there, and you can feel some of the tension, but no one's naming it, especially when I was young, when I was a little girl growing up in the school system there. That history was not told. I didn't know much about even how Black folks got to the Pacific Northwest, how we were treated once we were there, and how so many of our Black ancestors in Oregon shaped the state and especially Portland and made it what it is today. So I wanted Lena to celebrate that Black history, and so it's not a critique, it's more of a celebration of like, we are everywhere, first of all. So it's so funny when I say I grew up in Portland, they're like, what? There are Black people in Oregon? I'm like, yes, there might not be a lot of us, but we are there. And I just want to make that history visible, and to do that through a character who is thinking about her personal legacy, her mother, her grandmother, but also these folks who she doesn't know and who did not know her. But I always say, but they had us in mind, those ancestors who were praying for the better day to come. She is digging up that history so that she can be proud to be from the Pacific Northwest and to put it on record so that it's not erased.
Well, it's pretty astonishing, that all of the KKK people moved to Portland,
and didn't want us there, really fought to make it to where we would not stay.
So it explains a lot.
It does, and I really think that is the importance, right, of understanding our history, is so that we can understand what is happening right now. And that is, I think this is just such an important conversation to have about. It's a cliche, but sometimes cliches are true for a reason. And I do think there's a lot of truth in understanding where we are and who we are by understanding where we come from and what has already happened before we arrive to the scene.
Right. And the book is Skin and Bones.
Yes.
So in lowercase.
Yeah, that's my nod to Lucille Clifton. I love Lucille Clifton as a poet. As a woman, she taught me a lot, and I did not ever get to meet her before she passed, but her work has always been a mentor to me. So there's nods throughout the whole book to Lucille Clifton. The lowercase chapters, where she always wrote her poems in lowercase, Starshine and Clay is the name of a center, a community space in the book that's a safe space for people of color and for women of all sizes. And that is a line from her poem. So yes, that is definitely my nod to Miss Lucille and how she's inspired me as a writer.
I noticed that in the acknowledgments you refer to your mom.
Yes.
Begin. Talk to us a little bit.
I was writing this book her last year on this earth. And it was during the pandemic, so I was away from her because she was in Oregon and I was in New York. And so I'm so proud to be her daughter. I am everything good about me is because I am the daughter of Carrie Elizabeth Watson. And with this book being about legacy, I've been thinking a lot about what she taught me, how she listened to every story I ever wrote. Like I was writing when I was 7 years old, scribbling in a little notebook, sitting on the kitchen floor while she's washing dishes, and I'm reading my stories to her. She was always an audience for me and a fanner of the flame. I'm proud to be her daughter and to continue on her legacy. And I think I was thinking, I didn't know that grief and loss was going to be a part of this book. In the early draft, it didn't show up in the way that it ends up showing up. But I think I could not write about loss and grief I could not write about motherhood and legacy without including that. And I think it was because of what I had personally been through in losing her. But yeah, her legacy is strong. I'm the youngest of 5, and she did her very best with us. And so, we did not have a perfect home by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm really proud that I'm her daughter and thankful that I was born into the family that I was born into.
So the book is a love story.
Yes, there's a love triangle and all kind of juicy drama that I also can't do in YA. So that was fun to play around with that a little bit.
Right. That we won't give away the ending because you want to work your way through the ups and downs, the breakups, the whatever. And as you went through that, were you determined to make it a happy ending or not?
These characters surprised me just as much as they are surprising the readers. I had in mind what I thought would happen, but there was a moment when I realized, well, what if Lena, as a plus-size, dark-skinned woman who's kind of defying what mainstream beauty standards are, what if 2 men really like her and want her and that they're both viable? It's easy when it's like, well, we're obviously not going to choose this person, but what if they both are, complicated men and there's some good things and not so good things and she really does have a choice? Can we give this woman a choice in who she loves? And not a default person by, well, he's the only guy who loved her, so of course she's gonna be with him. So I liked having that tension and the very realness of big women being attractive and desired and wanted, and this woman getting to choose who she loves and who she's gonna invest in. I don't know that we talk about love as an investment or as a choice as much. It's the falling in and the soulmate, but sometimes you have to make a decision. I'm going to do the hard thing, and I'm going to love you, which is forgiving you, which is being patient with you, which is dealing with all of our stuff. And she's making some hard choices in who she's walking away from and who she's going to stay with. And it was liberating to write about a woman who gets to decide instead of having this kind of, it just happened. I just fell into this relationship.
And an adult romance.
Yeah.
And I love the section where you're talking. She said, my daughter wants to know when I'm going to stop crying, when I'm going, will I take a teddy bear to bed with me? Will I forgive Malcolm? Will I?
Yeah.
So that relationship with a child setting a tone for your daughter.
Mm-hmm. Well, you were asking about my mother, and one of the things I learned from her is that it's okay to make mistakes. Mm-hmm. And it's okay to be sad. It's okay to be angry. I saw my mother experience a wide range of emotions. She did not overly, she didn't exert them so much that I was nervous of like, oh no, what's wrong with my mom? She's crying. But I knew that my mother would cry. And I think that's important for adults to be human in front of young people instead of pretending like we have it all together. As an aunt, as a mentor, as a teacher, I have learned that I want to be my best self for the young people in my life, but sometimes I don't know the answer, and sometimes I am afraid or I am just as angry, and it's okay to admit that. So Lena's figuring out how can I be human with my child, but also remain the adult? And how can I forgive my mother who did her best, but made some mistakes? Loving the complicated, messy parts of love and relationship and motherhood.
And one of those good questions that the daughter in the book asks is, have you ever done anything that you should have been forgiven for and you weren't? Or, I mean, those kinds of questions about life and how you make it through.
Yeah. I think our young people have a lot of questions, and they are soaking up everything we do. So much of Aaliyah, the daughter, is about this little 8-year-old girl who's looking up to these grown women who are having grown conversations in front of her. Right. And she's also eavesdropping. Like, some of it, they're a little reckless with not paying attention that Aaliyah is around. But Aaliyah's sneaky, too. She's sitting on the staircase listening when she shouldn't be. That was so me, listening to my mom and her sisters. And so, what are we teaching our young people about loving their bodies? What are we teaching them about forgiving people? Can you forgive and still have boundaries of, like, I don't have to hate you, but you can't be in my inner circle? Just how are we helping young people navigate friendships and love of self and love of community, love of your nation, that you can love where you live and still critique it? Holding that balance. And so Lena, as a mom, is trying to figure that out. And she has her mother as an example, and that I think she has more grace now for her mother as she's now a mom. You figure out,
yes, once you have to do it, you
realize how hard it is. Yes.
It's a pretty tough thing.
Yeah.
And especially for Black women, having to be the strong Black woman, I mean, much is being written now and talked about. Resilience and self-care and this notion, and also, as we can see quite clearly in what's going on in the world, that Black women are the targets of a great deal of I don't want to say hate, that might be too strong a word, but
I think that's accurate.
You think that's accurate?
I do.
You do?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so how do you carry all of that? This world was not made for you. There's a resentment, there's a pushing out, a silencing. How can you show up in a world that is constantly trying to break you? How do you remain whole? And I think that's a question the book is asking. There's a moment when Aaliyah is crying and just trying to figure out, like, she's coming home bruised. You go out into the world and spiritually, things are bumping into you, and you come home kind of tattered. Who heals you? Who restores you? And this book is about the women who heal each other, and that sometimes, just as your friend, I might not have an answer, but I can just listen. I can take you in. I can bear witness. I can say, you're not making it up. That happened to me at work too. Like, it's not, it's not just you. And I think that sisterhood between women in general, and especially between Black women, is so sacred. The knowing that I don't need to be in the same exact situation as you, but when you start talking about the microaggressions at work, I know exactly what you mean, right? The bearing witness and saying amen to each other is how Lena survives, and what she's trying to teach her daughter. It's hard, but you can survive this hard world, and you can hold on to your joy.
Well, I'm so glad you're doing this for the adult women who need your book. I was watching some videos of you with some kids, taking them through Chance. I have a voice.
Oh, yes.
I'm powerful. And you've been doing that for so many years with, especially for young girls, in your book. So talk about the work with children.
That is my heart, are the babies. And I call them babies. I know they're not, even my high school students. I feel very honored that I'm trusted to tell stories to young people. It's a very intimate thing, and it's a lot of time that you're giving audience to me in a book, that they're spending so much time with me. And so I don't take it lightly. I want to motivate them, encourage them. I want them to feel seen and validated. I say, it's not a good book unless you got a scene that you relate to and a character you can't stand. I want you to argue about what's happening and find out who you are in this story and can you rise to be your best self. So I've loved working with young people, sharing these fiction stories and getting them to tell their own. The best part is when we're doing writing workshops together, and then they can try out, well, what do I want to talk about, or how do I tell my story? What do I want to say in a poem that celebrates where I'm from? And so I get a lot of fulfillment out of nurturing our future writers.
I know.
Listening to what they have to say.
So now, Skin and Bones is what, like your third book this year? I don't know how many. Fourth, fifth?
It's my third. It's my third book this year. I know.
And we've talked about the last
year.
time we were here. We were talking about your work ethic and your genius, the creativity that just flows out. So, Black Girl, you were Atlas.
Yes.
Talk to us about this because I'm taking this for Sophie, right, my granddaughter.
So Black Girl, You Are Atlas is a poetry collection, my first poetry collection, standalone poems, not a novel in verse. And it's about my life. So it's the most vulnerable I've ever been in writing because it actually is my story. And people don't know this about me, but my first love is poetry. I grew up writing it. I thought I would be a poet. I never thought I would write a novel, like never in a million years. So It feels so good to return to that Renee and to explore Black girlhood, my childhood, and celebrate where I come from in that book. Yeah, it's been very special to share it too with young people.
So this is out this year, Black Girl.
Yes, that came out in
Atlas.
February.
Right, right. And so I don't know how many more books are. Renee, you put everybody else who's writing a book to shame because you get them out there, published, successful, and beautiful. Right?
Well, I don't think I'm putting them to shame, but I am really proud. Especially this year, I have 4 books that are coming out, have come out, and they're all in different age groups, and they're all celebrating Black girlhood, Black womanhood, and the relationships that we have with each other. So I am very proud of this kind of collection. I think they're all speaking to each other in some way.
So the title, Skin and Bones, where did that come from?
Skin and bones is just the bare bones of it all, right? And that when we leave this earth, that's all that's left in the ground. We just become the skin, the bones, and then ashes, and then dirt, and then dust. So really what is important, this flesh, this shell that I'm in does not actually matter. What matters is the legacy that I leave. When I think about my mother, who you asked about, when I think about Lucille Clifton and all these people who came before me, when they're gone, the memory is not, what did they look like? How big were they? How thin were they? Were they beautiful? The memory, what I'm holding on to, is the essence of who they are. And so I was just wanting to play around with that idea of legacy, what we leave, the body, and then the insult too of, we have a lot of insults about big people, but when you call a thin person, like she ain't nothing but skin and bones, that's also an insult. So I just wanted to mess with that, that wording and have us contemplate what we leave behind.
Page 351
Yes.
here, if you could read to
Okay.
us, and if you could find page 351. I thought I did the terrible thing of turning down the corner.
We got it. It's right here.
I said, this author is going to go mad when she sees a page turned down.
Oh, no, no.
Right.
I think a beloved book should have earmarks and you can underline it. I believe in a worn, loved book. So that does not bother me at all.
So this is from Skin and Bones.
This is from Skin and Bones. So Lena, again, is, she's a thinker and she unpacks words. What is the true meaning of this word? When we say it, what does it mean and what does it hold? And so someone says Black in a way that is kind of like they can't barely even say it off their tongue. And she's kind of exploring the definition of Black. Black, onyx, coal, tar, cast iron, smoke, soot, storm clouds, ink, oil, blackboards, peppers, sesame, blackberries, coffee, crows, ravens, night, afros, beaded braids, cornrows, do-rags, silk hair bonnets, shea butter for skin, cocoa butter for scars, coconut oil for hair, wide tooth combs, hair picks, raised fists, dap, the hum of a church organ, the collards at a repast, the solo before the sermon, the hair grease dripping down the edges of foreheads, the plastic butter containers saved for Tupperware, the eye roll, always the eye roll. putting a handle on an elder's name, the tambourine being passed from hand to hand during a praise breaks, play cousins, uncles that ain't your uncle, aunties that earn the title because of how much they love you, how much they scold you, playing church, playing dominoes, playing spades, knowing when to say, I am not playing with you. You think I'm playing? I am not the one to be played. Don't play yourself. You better stop playing with me. Knowing when and how to say, can't stop, won't stop. Nothing can stop us now. Ain't no stopping us now.
Wow. Wow. Just lovely, lovely, lovely.
Thank you.
And so many people have commented too on the covers. Because,
Yes.
So tell us about, you know, the artwork and your determination there of presenting this beautiful woman.
Yeah, you know, I'm so proud that at this point in my career, it's just no longer a conversation or a debate about the character looking like how I described them. When I first got published, it was 2010, and there was such a conversation about dark-skinned people on covers, natural hair, big bodies, and I always had to advocate for that. But now it's just become so normalized that we can see ourselves, and I'm so proud of this cover. I'm proud mostly because her face is just neutral. She just gets to exist. She's not angry. She's not overly happy and joyful. And sometimes we put those intense emotions on Black women, where we are the angry Black woman,
Right.
or we're Black girl magic. You got to just be intense in some kind
Nothing
of
in
way,
between,
right?
but right.
But also we can just be. And I
Right.
like that Lena in this cover, I feel like she's just existing. And I think, if anything, that's the takeaway from the book, is that Black women deserve and need just space to be and to exist. So I'm really proud of the cover.
Well, and we love it too.
Thank
It is
you.
just such a beautiful work of art. The cover, the inside, the poetry, the love story, the mother-daughter relationships, and the friends and all. It's just really a wonderful contribution. So you're on tour. You're going around the world.
Yes.
You're going not only here, but now you're going to Lisbon. Is it?
Yes, I'll be going to Portugal in a celebration of all of my work. Young people there are reading my books, from the picture books all the way to YA, and I'll also be doing an evening event for Skin and Bone. So it's a celebration of my body of work, which feels really great.
Well, congratulations for it. You know, I don't know, you're going to sell another 1 million books this time around.
I hope so. Let's pray that into existence. Let's make
All
that
right,
happen.
I think we're planning to get together. No, I think with those 1 million, but you're going to take me out to dinner.
Yes,
you know, in the neighborhood.
and we're going to celebrate.
We're going to
birthday and all kind of things coming up for you. Yeah,
big birthdays.
let's make that happen.
Well, thank you so much, Renee, for being here again. We'll want you back next year when you have another 3 or 4 books that we can talk about.
Thank you.
Congratulations on all the success. So our thanks to Renée Watson, #1 New York Times best-selling author, Newbery Honor, and winner of the Coretta Scott King Award. I thank you for being with us, and thanks to you out there for joining us. I'm Carol Jenkins. The program is Black America, and we will see you the next time.